The hall buzzed with conversation, laughter, and a low hum of chatter. It was a gathering of families, students, and locals, people dressed in their best clothes, ready to honor those who had worn the uniform. Among the crowd walked a woman, quiet and unnoticed at first. She wore no medals, no decorations, no polished shoes, just a plain faded dress and shoes worn at the heels. Her hair was tied back loosely, strands falling across her face. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the strap of her old leather bag. Her scars were visible, faded lines across her cheek, and burn marks that traced her hands like rivers. To her, they were just part of her skin, but to others, they became a cruel source of judgment. As she made her way through the crowd, whispers followed. Look at her face. What happened to her? She looks like she's had a rough life. Poor thing. Or maybe she just wants sympathy. Some didn't even whisper. A young man near the back smirked, nudging his friend. She looks like someone out of a sad movie. Bet she never did anything but suffer. His friend chuckled. Yeah, scars don't make you a soldier. She probably tripped and fell into trouble. The woman heard them. Every word pierced deeper than they could imagine. But she didn't flinch, didn't react. She simply lowered her eyes and continued walking. Years of silence had taught her that explaining herself never changed minds. The laughter stung, but she had lived through worse. At the front of the hall, a voice boomed. The ceremony was about to begin. A decorated veteran entered, medals shining on his uniform, posture straight as steel. The crowd hushed out of respect. He was a man everyone admired, a survivor of battles they had only read about. But then it happened. As the woman adjusted the strap of her bag, her sleeve shifted slightly, revealing the edge of an old tattoo, faded but unmistakable. The insignia of a legendary combat unit, a mark only a select few in the world could carry. The veteran froze mid-step. His eyes locked on her arm. His breathing quickened as memories crashed into him. He knew that symbol. He had trained beside it. He had saluted it. And only the fiercest warriors, the ones who had walked through fire and returned alive, bore that tattoo. The room was silent as the veteran's eyes widened. He stopped in his tracks and, to everyone's shock, raised his hand slowly in a trembling salute. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The young men who mocked her earlier stopped laughing. Mothers and fathers turned to look again. The people who pitied her now stood frozen in confusion. The woman looked up, startled at first, then sighed. She tugged her sleeve back, but it was too late. The mark was seen. Her past, revealed. The veteran's voice broke through the silence. Ma'am, did you serve with that unit? She nodded quietly, her expression calm, but her eyes carried the weight of memories that words could never capture. The veteran swallowed hard, his voice trembling. I knew them. I fought beside them. They were legends. And you? His voice cracked. You were one of them. Whispers rose in the crowd. People who had laughed now stood pale, ashamed. The veteran lowered his head, his salute still firm. Forgive me. Forgive all of us. You are a hero. The woman didn't smile. She didn't need to. She simply stood there, her scars now bathed in a new light. They weren't marks of pity. They were medals, written into her skin by sacrifice. The young man who had mocked her earlier felt his throat tighten. He couldn't bring himself to look at her. He had laughed at a warrior, a protector, someone who had given everything so that he could live free. The silence in the hall deepened, heavy with realization. The veteran stepped closer, his hands still trembling. I've seen men fall who never carried the strength you clearly have. Every scar you wear is a story of courage, and I am honored, truly honored, to stand in your presence. The woman's eyes softened. She gave a small nod, but said nothing, because in truth, she didn't need their recognition. She had lived her battles, carried her scars, and buried her comrades. Their laughter was nothing compared to what she had endured. But for once, they saw her not as a scarred woman, not as someone to pity, not as a ghost of a hard life, but as a warrior whose silence was louder than any speech. In that hall, no one laughed again. They would remember her scars not as weakness, but as the price of strength.